Assalamu alaikum and a very good morning to all my dear students. This is your English instructor Miss Kainat Kamal and I welcome you all to the lecture 5. Hope you all are good at your places. So we would start our reading selection 1.2 Jinnah's Vision of Pakistan by Muhammad Ali Jinnah, and it is also known as Mr. Jinnah's Presidential Address to the Constituent Assembly of Pakistan. As we have already discussed this topic, the background of the topic, some of the salient features or salient points of the speech, today we are going to start the reading of the chapter. But before going into the reading, let me present you the summary of the previous lecture or some of the salient points of the speech that we will study, that we will read out. So the very first salient point of the speech is the functions of the Constituent Assembly that Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah has addressed to the Constituent Assembly. Second, he told about the responsibilities of the government, and then he talked about the thing that division was the only solution. We would go into the details of the chapter, freedom for everyone, and at the end he talked about the need of unity. So dear students, while into the reading of the chapter, kindly keep in mind these salient points of the speech. So here's I start the reading of the chapter, and the very first paragraph is basically the background of the speech. So here I start. Muhammad Ali Jinnah's 11th August speech is one of the most famous speeches made by Muhammad Ali Jinnah, the founding father of Pakistan and known as the Quaid-e-Azam, great leader. And yes, we all know that he was the first president of Pakistan. He was the first governor general of Pakistan. Today, there is hardly a more contentious issue in Pakistan than the issue of Jinnah's vision. Contentious mean is disputable or debatable, because we have to review the vision of Jinnah. That what was his vision, what he wanted Pakistan to be. While Pakistan was created as a result of what could be described as Indian Muslim nationalism, Jinnah was widely held as a competent barrister who had once championed the cause of Hindu-Muslim unity and a united India. So not only the division of Pakistan, but he did advocate the Hindu-Muslim unity, and he did advocate for the united India. Indian Muslim nationalism is basically a patriotism that both Indians and Muslims, Hindus and Muslims, they both were against the British, you can say, government. Okay, so when the partition of India finally occurred, Jinnah, soon to be Governor General of the Dominion means the state of Pakistan, gave expression to his vision of Pakistan in an address to the Constituent Assembly on August 11th, 1947. Now, why he addressed to the Constituent Assembly? Because Constituent Assembly is the assembly that establishes the constitution of a state. So the Constituent of Assembly constituted the Constitution of Pakistan. Now what Constitution is? Constitution is basically a document, or you can say Constitution is basically body of fundamental principles or established precedents to which a state or organization is acknowledged to be governed. Or in simple words, we can say in a constitution, that is a document, it contains it contains the rights of the citizen. Fine. So that document in which there are some set of rules. for the citizen of the very state. So in Pakistan's constitution, there are some set of rights for the citizen, some set of rules that guides how a country, how a state or other political or organization works. So in the constitution of Pakistan, it is clearly mentioned that how Pakistan would work. So the reason now to address the Constituent Assembly first, that in order to run the country, a new country that was just came into its independence, so for that they should have some constitution, they should have some set of rules in order to run that state, in order to govern the state. Okay, so he spoke of an inclusive and impartial government. Inclusive means something that is considered together, and impartial that is fair, just and unbiased. So he talked about an inclusive and unbiased government, religious freedom, rule of law and equality for all. These are basically some of the key points of his speech. He also seemed to advocate the ideology of Pakistan. So now this was the background of the very speech. So here starts the proper speech. Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, I cordially thank you with the utmost sincerity for the honor you have conferred upon me. Utmost sincerity means the greatest possible degree. And conferred mean to bestow or to grant something as a possession. So the greatest honor that is possible to confer, that is possible to bestow, by electing me as your first president of Pakistan, the very first Governor General of Pakistan. I also thank those leaders who have spoken in appreciation of my services and their personal references to me. I sincerely hope that with your support and your cooperation, we shall make this Constituent Assembly as an example to the world. So up till here, by thanking the audience that was sitting in front of him, thanking the authorities, he properly takes the start of his speech. The Constituent Assembly has got two main functions to perform. The very first is the very onerous and responsible task of framing the future constitution of Pakistan. So the very first and the foremost duty of the Constituent Assembly is to frame the constitution of Pakistan. Now what constitution is? Simply the set of rules. Okay, the second function of the Constituent Assembly is functioning as a full and complete sovereign body as the federal legislature of Pakistan. So now this Constituent Assembly is a sovereign body. Sovereign means that is self-governing, that is supreme, that has supreme power, and legislature is that governmental body with the power to make, amend and repeal laws. Fine. So what are the two main functions of the Constituent Assembly? The very first is to frame the constitution of Pakistan, and second is working or functioning as a complete sovereign body. Okay, we have to do the best we can in adopting a provisional constitution for the federal legislature of Pakistan. You know really that not only we ourselves are wondering, but I think the whole world is wondering at this unprecedented cyclonic revolution which has brought about the plan of creating and establishing two independent sovereign dominions in the subcontinent. Now Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah has called this division of two independent states in the subcontinent, Hindustan and Pakistan. So he called this division in the subcontinent a cyclonic revolution, and he said that it was unprecedented. Unprecedented means that it was never before seen It was never before done. So this was a thing for the very first time in the history of the world has taken place, that in a single subcontinent there was the division of two independent sovereign dominions, sovereign states, Hindustan and Pakistan. As it is, it has been unprecedented. There is no parallel in the history of the world. This mighty subcontinent with all kinds of inhabitants has been brought under a plan which is titanic, unknown, unparalleled. Now, the plan of the division he called titanic, unknown, and unparalleled, that is matchless. You cannot find such incident in the history of the world. And what is very important with regards to it, with regards to the division, we have achieved it peacefully and by means of an evolution of the greatest possible character. Okay, so now moving towards the next point, and that is function in this assembly. Dealing with our first function in this assembly, I cannot make any well considered pronouncement. Pronouncement means any official public announcement at this moment, but I shall say a few things as they occur to me, as they come to me. The first and the foremost thing that I would like to emphasize is this. Remember that you are now a sovereign legislative body and you have got all the powers. You can make laws, you can amend laws. You are now an independent state. It therefore places on you the gravest responsibility as to how you should take your decisions. Gravest means extremely serious and the most important responsibility, that how you would take your decisions in order to govern this state of Pakistan. The first observation that I would like to make is this. You will no doubt agree with me that the first duty of a government is to maintain law and order. Now, he has come to the point of telling the responsibilities of the government. First, he talked about the responsibilities or the functions of the Constituent Assembly. Now he moved to the functions or the duties of the government. So the very first and the foremost duty of the government is to maintain law and order situation in the state, so that the life, property, religious beliefs of its subjects means the citizens, are full protected by the state. So property, life, the safety of life, property and religious beliefs of the citizens, it should be in the hands of the government. It should be in the so the hands of the government should be protective. So for that there should have some law and order situation in the country. So this was the first and the foremost duty of the government. The second thing that occurs to me is this. One of the biggest curses from which India is suffering. Now he is giving the review of another independent state in the subcontinent, that is India, Hindustan. I do not say that other countries are free from it, but I think our condition is much worse, is bribery and corruption. So the curse from which we all were suffering was the bribery and corruption that really is a poison that is eating us all from inside. We must put that down. We must vanish it from our society with an iron hand, and I hope that you will take adequate measures as soon as it is possible for this assembly to do so. So here, iron hand is an idiom which means that stern, strict, with a harsh, rigorous control. So with a harsh control, we should take this what we can say, we should take this poison, we should take this curse from our society, that is bribery and corruption. So we should take and he hoped for the suitable measures that should soon be taken, and that was possible for this assembly, for the Constituent Assembly to do so. So, what he said was that he hoped for the possible measures taken by the assembly in order to eradicate the curse of bribery and corruption from the society. Okay, so the next thing that strikes me is this. Here again, it is a legacy which has been passed on us. Legacy means something handed down or received from an ancestor or predecessor. So, what he said was another legacy that has been received, that has been transferred from our predecessors and ancestors, along with many other things, good and bad, has arrived this great evil, the evil of nepotism and jobbery. Now, nepotism is basically favoritism shown to relatives or close friends, giving unnecessary favors. And what jobbery is basically making profits, making some sort of profit, or making private profit out of a public office through corruption. So, from the public offices or through corruption, making some private or personal profits. So, what he said was, first he talked about the curse of bribery and corruption. Then he said that another legacy has been passed on to us, that is the evil of nepotism and jobbery, and I want to make it quite clear that I shall never tolerate any kind of jobbery, nepotism, or any influence directly or indirectly brought to bear upon me. Whenever I will find that such a practice is in vogue or is continuing anywhere, low or high, I shall certainly not countenance it. Vogue means that something that is in popular practice. And what he said was simply that he said that I have zero tolerance for jobbery and nepotism, and I should not see any such practice that is in that should go popular among the people of the people of the state, people of Pakistan, and whether at high level or at low level. And certainly he said that I will not favor such type of corruption, such type of evil practices in our state, in the state of Pakistan. Okay, I know there are people who do not quite agree with the division of India and the partition of Punjab and Bengal. Much has been said against it, but now that it has been accepted, it is the duty of every one of us to loyally abide by it. Abide by it means to obey it, obey the division, and honorably act according to the agreement which is now final and binding on all. Binding means obligatory. We all should so strictly follow this. But you must remember, as I have said, that this mighty revolution, the division of the subcontinent, that has been taken place is unprecedented, never seen before or never experienced. One cannot quite understand one can quite understand the feeling that exists between the two communities, wherever one community is in majority Hindus and other is in minority Muslims. So now he is addressing to the Hindus and Muslims. Definitely Hindus, they were in a majority and are, and in minorities were the Muslims. But the question is whether it was possible or practicable to act otherwise than what has been done. A division has to take place on both sides in Hindustan and Pakistan. So, in the key points, what we have discussed was that in the eyes of Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah, what he thought was the division is the only solution. We can only get into our lives, we can only get successful, we can only stand united once this division would take place. So what he said was that division has to take place on both sides, in Hindustan and Pakistan. There are sections of people who may not agree with it, who may not like it, but in my judgment, there was no other solution, and I am sure the future history will record its verdict, will record its decision in favor of it, in favor of the division. And what is more, it will be proved by actual experience as we go on that it was the only solution of India's constitutional problems. Any idea of a united India could never have worked, and in my judgment, it would have led us to terrific disaster. Maybe that view is correct. Maybe it is not. That remains to be seen. All the same, in this division, it was impossible to avoid the question of minorities being in one dominion or the other. Now that now that was unavoidable, there is no other solution except of the division. Now what shall we do? Now, if we want to make this great state of Pakistan happy and prosperous, we should wholly and solely concentrate on the well being of the people, and especially of the masses and the poor. So, here he has highlighted a very debatable sort of issue, that is equality, that is the equal treatment to all the people living in a state, whether they are in minorities, whether they are in majorities. So this was basically one of the main reasons that this division has taken place. The equality or the freedom, we could say, these were some of the factors that were behind this very division, the division of the subcontinent in the form of Hindustan and Pakistan. If you will work in cooperation, forgetting the past, burying the hatchet, you are bound to succeed. If you change your past and work together in a spirit that every one of you, no matter what community he belongs, no matter what relations he had with you in the past, no matter what is his color, caste, or creed, is first, second, and last a citizen of this state with equal rights, privileges, and obligations, there will be no end to the progress you will make. So, a very important point he has made over here, and that was equality and justice for all. No matter from what caste, creed, religion, or color you belong to, if you are the citizen of this state, so you have equal rights, privileges, and obligations. And then when there would be such sort of practice on equality and justice in the state, there will be no end to the progress you will make, we as Pakistanis will make. I cannot emphasize it too much. We should begin to work in that spirit. And in the course of time is basically a phrase that means as time passes on. All these angularities means differences of the majority and the minority communities, the Hindu community and the Muslim community. Because even as regard Muslims, you have Pathans, Punjabis, Shias, Sunnis, and so on. And among the Hindus, you have Brahmins, Vaishnavas, Khatris, also Bengalis, Madrasis, and so on, will vanish. Indeed, if you ask me, this has been the biggest hindrance, the biggest hurdle in the way of India to attain freedom and independence. So, a very important point here he again made, and the point is that the hurdle in the success of India is that there is no such equality. Khatris cannot go into the even they cannot go into the temples, into the mosques of Brahmins to worship the same God, because there is no such equality, there is no such justice. We would have been a free people long ago. No power can hold another nation, especially a nation of 400 million souls, in subjection. Nobody could have conquered you, and even if it had happened, nobody could have continued its hold on you for any length of time. Length of time is an idiom and it means that small amount of time, but for this. Therefore, we must learn a lesson from this. You are free. You are free to go to your temples. You are free to go to your mosques or to any other place of worship in the state of Pakistan. You may belong to any religion or caste or creed that has nothing to do with the business of the state. So, in order to run the business of the state, in order to run the powers of the state, in order to run the departments of the state, you should only be the citizen of Pakistan, irrespective of any caste, creed, color, or religion. If you are the citizen of Pakistan, you can interfere, you can work in any business of the state of the Pakistan. Now, I think we should keep that in front of us as our ideal, and you will find that in course of time, Hindus would cease to be Hindus and Muslims would cease to be Muslims. Cease means to stop or discontinue. Not in the religious sense. Not in the religious sense they would discontinue to be Hindus or they would discontinue to be Muslims, because that is a personal faith or each individual, but in the political sense as citizens of state. So if you would work in such ideals of equality and justice, so you would see that people would discontinue people would discontinue to treat others on the basis of religion, caste, and creed, rather on the basis of political sense as the citizen of the state. Moving towards the conclusion or the end of this speech, well, gentlemen, I do not wish to take up any more of your time and thank you again for the honor you have done to me. I shall always be guided by the principle of justice and fair play. So these are the principles of Jinnah, justice, fair play, as is put in the political language, prejudice or ill will. In other words, partiality or favoritism. So, partiality, favoritism, prejudice, ill will were not the principles, and Qaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah was not guided by such principles. His guiding principles were justice and complete impartiality. And I'm sure that with your support and cooperation, I can look forward to Pakistan becoming one of the greatest nations of the world. So this was basically the vision of Jinnah for a great nation. That was Pakistan. That there should have inclusive, impartial government. There should have fair play. There should have justice, equality, freedom for all. There should not be any impartiality. There should not be any favoritism, any partiality, any nepotism, jobbery, corruption. This state should be evil free. This state should be fair on the principles of this state should work on the principle of justice, freedom, equality, and fair play. So moving towards the conclusion, so this was one of the historical speeches of Qaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah. And in this speech, he told his people to work on his principles, the principles of justice and fair play. Prejudice, ill will, partiality, and favoritism he wanted us to quit. He also advised us actually to follow these golden principles if we want to live happy and prosperous life. Principles of fair play and justice. He said that my guiding principles will be justice and complete impartiality. He concluded his speech by saying that one day the Pakistan will become a greatest nation of the world. If we work in cooperation and become friends, then we are bound to succeed. So at the end, he wanted all of us to stand united for a great nation to be. That was Pakistan. Now here, a food for thought is, if we would look back in our present and our coming future, where we are going, where we are and where we were. So, what was the vision of our Qaid? What was the vision of our leader? What was the vision of our first Governor General? And what we have achieved or what we are achieving. So, with the hope of everybody's good health at their places, I end up of this today's lecture. So your queries and your suggestions are welcome at the portal. Thank you, girls, and stay blessed all.